Oh, I do tell you something, he's having a good time, isn't he, with that ammonite? Oh, I could do with some ammonite myself, if I don't start glitching out, you know what I mean. I'll feed you later, Marty, alright? Just let me get on with this, okay? Yeah, brilliant, smashing. Hey up everybody, how are we all doing? So, I'm back with another video, and I thought I'd do another mosasaur video, and this time we're going to do... Let's just get this one out of the way. Now this fellow up here is Prognathodon, however you want to pronounce it, tomato. But this mosasaur it's a special case. And we'll get into that, but first we're going to do a bit of discussion about what Prognathodon is and a bit of history behind it. So, the genus Prognathodon is a mosasauring mosasaur, which means it's closely related to Mosasaurus, Cladastes, Jormungandr, Plesiotylosaurus, and a whole host of other mosasaurs, and is defined through certain characteristics of its skeleton. In fact, a good load of mosasauring characteristics are actually defined within the skull. It includes the premaxilla, which is the bone on the very tip of the snout, having a very small rostrum, basically the projecting point that tylosaurs have. Mosasaurians usually have up to 14 teeth or more present in the dentary, which is sort of the big bottom jaw bit. That's the bit that basically contains the teeth. And there's other various aspects, such as aspects of the quadrate, which is that bone there that basically hinges the jaw, and parts of the surangula, which is sort of this big bony bit at the back of the jaw that's basically the back of the jaw, if you like. You can see the upper edge of the surangula actually rises up to this U-shaped bone that's called the coracoid, and these are sort of other aspects that make mosasaurians quite unique from other mosasaurs. There's other bits and pieces of the skeleton that make mosasaurians quite unique from the other mosasaurs, but that's just a load of higgledy wish-wash, all that sort of little details we don't need to worry about. But anyways, enough about mosasaurians as a whole. Let's narrow it down to Prognathodon, or what we think is Prognathodon, but let me divulge. So, what we currently define as Prognathodon is a mosasauring mosasaur that lived from the Campanian about 83 million years ago to the Maastrichtian about 66 million years ago. And if you know what 66 million years ago means, it means it basically died out at the end of the Cretaceous period, along with all the other mosasaurs, dinosaurs, ammonites, and a whole cluster of different animals during the KPG mass extinction event, when a giant rock slammed into the earth and basically just... oops. Now, Prognathodon has a global distribution, with many specimens and species being found in Europe, North America, Africa, and even as far as New Zealand. The name Prognathodon means prior or early tooth, basically the very front teeth, the front of the jaw in the premaxilla, those sort of very pointy front teeth, that's where it gets its name from. So, Prognathodon genus was described in 1889 by Louis Dorlo, who was a Belgian paleontologist, and he found and described some of the first specimens of this genus. He did not realise what was going to happen later down the line. So he defined the type species, Prognathodon solvii, which is this fella right up here. He's got an eyeball. I hope he's looking right at me. This is a bit freaky. Now, this animal lived in the chalk beds of Belgium, so was probably swimming around Europe during the end of the Cretaceous period, and probably even saw the extinction event that would have killed it and its kin off. At the current moment in time, Prognathodon solvii's maximum size is about 6 meters, so about as big as a saltwater crocodile, which is about medium sized and quite average for a mosasaur. Now, this is a bit weird, but Prognathodon solvii actually has quite unique teeth for the genus of Prognathodon. Its teeth are actually quite slender compared to the other robust teeth of other Prognathodon species, and uniquely, they have quite prominent faceting, which is those sort of striated lines that are on the teeth. This probably means that Prognathodon solvii was more suited for eating some mostly softer prey and then occasional harder prey, which we have some evidence for. Newman and Hamp from 2018 actually described an echinoid that actually had a bite mark from a mosasaur on, and they concluded the mosasaur probably was a globidensine mosasaur, which at the time would make this maybe a Prognathodon type mosasaur. And based on the specimen of echinoid being found in Germany around the Maastrichtian, the only real mosasaur that probably could have done this would have been a Prognathodon solvii, but at the moment we just have a bite, you know, we don't have the Prognathodon stuck to the echinoid, which would be, that'd be very unfortunate. You're going out looking for a bit of food and then you die. That's how it was. Here comes the fun part about Prognathodon, and no, it's not fun. It really is not fun. So, the problem with Prognathodon is that, as a genus, it's paraphyletic. So basically what this means is that even though all these mosasaurs are descended from the same common ancestor, they are not included in the same descendant groups. So, as you can see above, all these animals, or all these examples of animals, descended from the same common ancestor. However, not all the ancestors' descendants are included in the same groups, which means they are paraphyletic, they are apart from each other. And when we started using phylogenetic analysis to actually determine whether these mosasaurs were all closely related, we started to find that most of these mosasaurs that we called Prognathodon ended up being, while descended from the same common ancestor, not from the same groups, and therefore can't technically be Prognathodon. And a lot of these mosasaurs that were labelled Prognathodon were basically put into Prognathodon because they had somewhat robust teeth, and the very front teeth on the premaxilla jutted forwards, and that was enough parameters to put them in Prognathodon, and that's where we run into the problem of Prognathodon being paraphyletic, and therefore we don't know what is Prognathodon, and you can see by my eyes that this is very, very stressful. Oh, blooming hell, a lot of cousins I didn't know about. I wonder if my aunties and uncles were having affairs up and down the country, up and down the globe. No, Marty, no, that's not how this works. Never mind. So, as you can see right there, I've made a list of what is Prognathodon and what might be Prognathodon. So, let's just highlight a few individual species of Prognathodon or Prognathodon-ish animals. So, first up, from the same place and the same time as Prognathodon solvii, we have Prognathodon giganteus. Now, this animal actually coexisted with Prognathodon solvii, but was a larger, more robust species of Prognathodon. This meant that it probably niche partitioned and went after different prey from Prognathodon solvii, so it stopped them from competing with each other. At around about 9 meters, Prognathodon giganteus wasn't as big as some of the larger mosasaurs such as Haenosaurus and Mosasaurus that it shared its habitat with, but was definitely dwarfing Prognathodon solvii. Next up, I want to give a special mention to Prognathodon anceps, which is no longer a species of Prognathodon, has actually been synonymized into another mosasaur. But for a very long time, Prognathodon anceps was quite famous from the Moroccan phosphates that date to the Maastrichtian, which is where you find such animals as Thalassotitan, Remusaurus, Xenodens, Pleurodens serpentis, and a whole host of other animals. Basically, if you see any of these teeth in any fossil shops or any shops at all, these will be labelled as Prognathodon and probably Prognathodon anceps. We don't use that name anymore. This animal has been synonymized into a mosasaur that I'm going to discuss in a very short second. This guy right here is Thalassotitan atrox, a new mosasaur that was described back in 2022. Now, this animal was for a very long time labelled as Prognathodon sp. nov, which meant that it was a new species of Prognathodon, but we just didn't have a name for it at the moment. And that moment spanned quite a few decades, which is very annoying for a paleontological researcher. Very, very annoying. The 2022 paper that named Thalassotitan atrox actually helped in sorting out a lot of issues with the phosphate mosasaurs. It synonymized Prognathodon sp. nov, Prognathodon anceps, and even Prognathodon affinity giganteus, which meant that there were some teeth down there that might have been Prognathodon giganteus, but turns out they're not. And it just sorted out a lot of phylogenetic mess in the Moroccan phosphate mosasaurs. Such a cool name though. Thalassotitan, sea titan. Oh, beautiful. Another mosasaur species that escaped the grasp of Prognathodon was this fella, Gnathomortus. Now, Gnathomortus was a presumed specimen of Prognathodon found in the 1970s and later described as a species of Prognathodon in 1999. It was then labelled for a very long time as Prognathodon statmanii, but then in 2020 it was reanalysed and found to have distinct skull features that made it separate from Prognathodon and warranted a new genus name, and therefore was given the name Gnathomortus, which means jaws of death. That's beautiful. Now, a pretty interesting species of Prognathodon is Prognathodon curii, which is from Israel. Now, this mosasaur was up to 10 meters in length and had quite a hefty and robust skull. And the teeth? The teeth were interesting. They were very robust and were sort of straight and conical shaped, unlike the sort of slightly curved teeth that you see in other Prognathodon species, which meant that this thing was probably a shell crusher. This meant that it most likely competed with Globidens, which was a shell-crushing mosasaur. The final Prognathodon species I'm going to mention is Prognathodon saturator. This animal was described from Belgium and was probably the biggest Prognathodon that we know of to date. At 12 meters long, this T-Rex-sized mosasaur was an absolute terror in its environment. And in celebration of the specimen, which was named Bear, I think that's how I'm pronouncing it, it actually got its own alcoholic drink. Hey, drinks for the boys! So, unfortunately, we're going to have to leave that there for Prognathodon. I might do a part 2 to this. But if you guys have any questions or anything, comment down below, and see you later. Ta-da.